Millions of Americans were expecting a $2,000 stimulus-style payment funded by tariffs, but a new statement has changed everything. Trump now says he hasn't made a firm commitment, and that has left seniors and low-income households wondering if the money is really coming or quietly disappearing. At the same time, there is still no bill in Congress, no official payment date, and no confirmed eligibility rules. So is this a delayed benefit, a political proposal, or a stimulus that may never arrive? In this video, we break down the latest facts so you know exactly where things stand right now. Welcome back to Seniors Relief. This channel is here to keep you one step ahead, not catching up late. I break down the latest Social Security updates, SSA payment changes, SNAP and EBT benefits, IRS announcements, stimulus news, and government programs in simple words so you clearly understand what affects your money. Many people only hear about these changes after the deadline passes or payments are missed, but viewers here know early and know exactly what to do. So subscribe now, stay informed, and make sure you're always among the first to hear about new payments, benefit increases, and eligibility changes that could put money in your pocket. Donald Trump has once again brought attention to the idea of sending $2,000 tariff dividend stimulus checks to Americans, but his latest comments suggest that the plan is far from guaranteed. While the concept has been discussed publicly since July and has generated significant excitement among low and middle-income households, Trump recently admitted that he has not made a firm commitment to actually delivering the payments. That shift in tone has created uncertainty for millions of people who were hoping to receive direct financial relief sometime in 2026. From the beginning, the proposal was framed as a rebate funded by money collected through tariffs on imports. The administration promoted the idea as a way to return what it described as massive tariff revenues back to citizens earning under $100,000 per year. Early messaging suggested that the checks could arrive by mid-2026, and the plan was presented alongside other economic promises such as tax reductions and deficit control. For many Americans struggling with high living costs, the possibility of a $2,000 payment became something they started counting on. However, during a recent interview, Trump appeared to distance himself from any concrete timeline. When asked directly about the promised checks, he responded by saying he had not fully committed and indicated that any payments would depend on how much tariff revenue actually comes in. He suggested that if the funds are large enough, payments might be possible toward the end of the year, but he did not provide details about eligibility, distribution methods, or whether the amount would remain at $2,000. That lack of clarity has raised questions about whether the proposal is still a priority or simply an idea under consideration. The confusion deepened after an earlier interview in which Trump seemed to momentarily lose track of the proposal when questioned about it, asking when he had made the promise. In the same discussion, he referenced a separate 1,976 dividend concept, adding to the mixed messaging around direct payments. While the administration has announced other tariff-funded initiatives, including a multi-billion-dollar relief package for farmers, there has still been no formal legislative proposal sent to Congress specifically for the $2,000 checks. That legislative step is critical because, despite suggestions that the executive branch might be able to move quickly, economic advisors have clarified that Congress would ultimately need to approve any direct payments to Americans. Without a bill outlining funding, eligibility, and distribution, the checks cannot be issued. At this point, no such bill has been introduced, debated, or scheduled for a vote, which means there is no official payment timeline. Another major question is whether tariff revenue could realistically cover the cost. Trump has repeatedly claimed that tariffs are bringing in enormous sums, enough to fund stimulus payments, reduce the federal deficit, and increase defense spending. But independent analysis paints a different picture. Estimates suggest that sending $2,000 to eligible Americans would cost hundreds of billions of dollars, while actual tariff collections for the year are significantly lower than that range. According to tax policy analysts, using tariff revenue for large direct payments would likely increase the federal deficit rather than reduce it. All of this leaves the proposal in a highly uncertain position. The idea of a tariff dividend has political appeal and has been mentioned multiple times in speeches and interviews, but there is still no confirmed policy, no congressional approval, and no funding plan that matches the projected cost. For now, the the $2,000 stimulus check remains a possibility rather than a guaranteed benefit, and Americans who are expecting a payment should understand that there is no official schedule or commitment in place. Until a formal proposal is introduced and passed into law, the checks remain speculative. The administration continues to discuss the concept, but the combination of unclear timelines, funding gaps, and the need for congressional action means that any potential payment is still in the discussion phase rather than on the way to bank accounts. Despite the uncertainty, the proposal continues to attract attention because it taps into a broader debate about how tariff revenue should be used. Supporters argue that if tariffs are generating significant income for the government, then returning a portion of that money directly to citizens could help offset higher prices caused by those same trade policies. They see the idea as a form of economic recycling, money collected at the border flowing back to households that may be paying more for imported goods. For families dealing with inflation, that argument has strong appeal. Critics, however, point out that tariffs are ultimately paid by importers and often passed on to consumers through higher prices, meaning the same households could be paying more throughout the year and then receiving a one-time payment that may not fully compensate for those increased costs. Economists also warn that relying on tariff income for permanent or large-scale stimulus programs is risky because trade flows can change quickly due to global market conditions, diplomatic shifts, or domestic policy decisions. That makes tariff revenue less predictable than traditional tax income. There is also growing discussion about who would qualify if the checks were ever approved. Early statements suggested an income cap of $100,000, but there has been no official confirmation of whether that limit would apply to individuals, households, or adjusted gross income. Questions remain about whether seniors on Social Security, disabled Americans, veterans, and low-income workers would be included automatically, or whether they would need to file additional paperwork. Without legislative text, none of these eligibility details have been finalized. Timing is another major issue. Even if a proposal were introduced in Congress in the coming months, the legislative process itself could take a significant amount of time. Lawmakers would need to debate the funding source, determine the exact payment structure, and decide whether the checks would be a one-time rebate or part of a broader economic package. After that, federal agencies would still need time to build the distribution system, verify eligibility, and coordinate payments, which means any realistic timeline would likely extend well beyond the optimistic early projections. For now, the $2,000 tariff dividend remains a political talking point rather than an approved stimulus program. Americans who are hoping for direct payments should watch for concrete developments such as a formal bill, a confirmed funding mechanism, and an official announcement from Congress. Until those steps happen, the proposal should be viewed as a possibility under discussion, not a guaranteed benefit or a payment that is scheduled to arrive. The bottom line is simple. There is no approved $2,000 stimulus check yet. The idea is still being discussed, but without a formal proposal, funding plan, and congressional approval, no payments can be issued. That means seniors should not rely on this money for bills, healthcare, or daily expenses until something official is signed into law. We will continue to monitor every announcement, every policy move, and every confirmed detail so you don't miss anything that could affect your income. Make sure to stay connected with Seniors Relief for clear, factual updates. No hype, no confusion, just the information you need to protect your financial future.